Hello guys, and welcome to version 1.3 of the Realistic Boiling Water Reactor Simulator. So I'll be talking about the features that have been recently added to the game. So the one which is pretty obvious once you look around is the rework of the graphics. Actually, we changed the lighting engine from Future to Shadow map. It seems like a downgrade because Future really looks pretty cool, but unfortunately it's so CPU demanding that many of you really struggled to play the game, and now you should see really amazing boost to the frame rate and general performance of the game. This of course comes with a cost. It won't look as good as it did, but I think it's worth it. So along with this migration to the new system, we also introduced a lot of reworks. So one of them is gauges. They have now like textures. Yeah, you can see they look pretty cool. Unfortunately, on the shadow map, the backlights didn't work as intended, so we just stick to these textures. I will show you how this looks. So, yeah, I think it's maybe not, it doesn't look as neat as it has before, but it's still pretty good. Okay, so now I'm starting the reactor. It's on 5% power. I will show you how to run up the turbine. From this update, the turbine, generally the control has become much more cooperative. That's what I hope for, because now, apart from people who are doing their stuff here in the control room, there should also be somebody at the turbine maintaining it. So it should be pretty fun, because we are now out to coordinate some actions. We have a phone for that, so we can call the turbine and do some stuff. So for the reactor, not really a lot changes. The one major change is this. We used to set up the bypass valve at 100%. Now we will set it up at about 35%. So if you do this on this 5% of reactor power, you will pretty much reach 7 megapascals of pressure. This is what we want to achieve early on, as this is much more realistic than it was did before, because in real life actually you want the maximum of the nominal pressure very early on. It's because the turbine doesn't really like to work on low pressures, because the water has much more moisture there, and it's just bad for the turbine. So we want to run up the turbine at 7 megapascals. We can go a little lower, like down to 5, but below that the turbine will trip. So this is like maintaining the pressure now becomes an important factor for the reactor control, especially when you start up the turbine. You just have to pay attention to that. So that's why we start with this 35% in bypass. It should just give us the right pressure. Okay, we have steam already, so I'll just enable this to get the vacuum. And I think that everything here is set up on auto control, so yeah, we should be fine here. So I will just go to the control room and do the turbine control room. I will show you how this new startup procedures look like. Oh, remember to pick your dosimeter, because also the radioactivity was added. You should scan yourself every time you go. Oh, it doesn't always work. Okay. Yeah, I'm on 0. It's pretty good. Yeah, so I will talk maybe about radioactivity a bit later. Now let's just go to the turbine. So there is a startup guide. It's pretty similar to the one you have for Unit 1, so you can use it if you want. But remember that this is now much more cooperative. You cannot do it alone. I mean, I'll be doing this alone, but generally it's not designed to be done this way. Okay, so what do we start with? You can use the checklist. So it tells us to enable the lube and hydraulic oil pumps. So hydraulic pumps are here and lube oil pumps are here. There are like 3 of them for one and 3 of them for the second one. So maximum total of 6 pumps. So we have emergency pumps. These are attached to the emergency bus, so they can be run when there is no power. But we should just enable the startup ones. They are connected to the safety bus. So once we enable them, you can see that the hydraulic pressure will increase. The goal is about 12 bars, and the lube oil pressure will also decrease, and the goal is around 6. And the next thing which you want to do is to preheat the oil. It's now at around 20 degrees, it's too cold. So in order to do that, you open the hot water valve to about 50%. There is a heat exchanger, so the hot water will warm up the oil. So when I open this, you can see that the temperature of the oil started to grow. Basically, later on, when the turbine is running and there's a lot of hot steam, then you will actually want to cool the oil. So you use this cool valve to use the cool water to cool it down. But now we are just warming it up. The goal is about 45 degrees, so we should keep it there. And in order to distribute this warm oil all over the turbine, we want the turbine to rotate, so we will use turning gear for that. We need to first engage it. This connects the engine to the shaft, and now enable. And once we do that, you can see that the temperature of the oil will initially start dropping. Also the same happens to the pressure. This is of course natural. This is because we're distributing the oil into the turbine, so the oil is giving away its heat to the turbine. It's warming it up. So once it's done, this should start growing again. So yeah, it works like in real life. Pretty neat. Okay, and the next thing is you can check it on the checklist, is check condenser vacuum. So you will need condenser vacuum to further continue. We already have condenser vacuum at the right level. If you don't have it, you can always call. You have a phone, you can call the control room and ask them for the vacuum, because you cannot continue. So there is steam available. As you can see, we have steam pressure already, and there is a vacuum available. You can enable the sealing, steam sealing. So you do this by providing steam with a supply valve. You just need to open it to maximum. Initially there is this vacuum in the condenser, so this also has some under pressure. It's below 0, but if we wait a moment, this should start to grow. So the goal for the sealing pressure is around 0.25 of bars. You can see it's already growing. Again, once we provide steam to the turbine will be running up on the steam. This pressure will have to be reduced. So we will reduce the supply valve, and later on we may also need to use the leak-off valve. So we use a single switch for that. Okay, and the last step would be to preheat the casing. So first check steam temperature over 270 degrees. Yeah, it is there. Again, if we don't have enough temperature here, we want to contact the control room so they can provide us with it. So once we have that temperature and the turning gear is on, turbine is at stable 50 RPMs, okay, that's how turning gear works. We can open this preheat valve to provide the hot steam to the turbine casing. And now we can see that casing temperature is actually rising. That's good. And here you can also read the rate at which this is happening. You don't want to go above 50 Celsius per minute. So yeah, you just have to open this valve a little, observe the rate. And this is perfect. It will be dropping, the rate will be dropping because the nearer we are to the goal temperature or the maximum temperature, of course it will be harder to hit this, so you just have to like constantly increase this preheat valve. And in real life this process takes about up to 8 hours, which is a lot of time. Of course this has been shortened for the sake of the gameplay, so it should take only a few minutes if it's 50 degrees per minute. So yeah, we need about 6 minutes. Yeah, to reach the desired temperature. And as you can see, the reactor pressure is on ideal level. So if you leave the reactor on 5% and put the bypass at 35%, you just get this. This is perfect. That's what we want. So it's a good point to start. Of course, if there is someone in the turbine control room, then they can just adjust it on the go. Okay, so how do we start the turbine? We want all the lights to be green. Yes, that's how it works. It's our job to do it. So you see the first 4 lights are for the oil, both pressure and temperature. That's what we did at the beginning. So if the both the pressure and the temperature stay in the limit, that's okay. Next we have this casing temperature. We want to increase it. It's still too low. Next is the turning gear disengaged. So at the end of the whole process we need to disengage it. Steam sealing, that's another thing. Yeah, it has been set up by us before, it's okay. And the last 2 parameters, we cannot really affect them. So it's the condenser vacuum and reactor pressure. So the control room has to keep them in limits, which actually is pretty easy to do. As you can see, nobody is there and it's in the limit. So once all the lights are green, you will get this green turbine ready for run-up light. Then you just call the control room and tell them the turbine is ready for run-up. That's basically it. If for some reason they cannot start it, even though you have all lights at green, then there's one more thing that you may want to check. Is this actuator which is located here. Is this thing. And when you like over RPM the turbine, it's a safety device. It will just like kick out of this. It will go up and this stops the turbine. It closes all the hydraulic valves and the turbine just trips. So if the turbine was tripped by over RPM, then you will need to come here and press this manually. This can also trip on other occasions, like this sometimes happens randomly. So if there's a problem with the turbine, be sure to check this. Okay. So now you may notice that once we pass this 240, 250 maybe degrees, the green light will actually go on. It means we are in the limit for the turbine run-up. Yes, that's happened now. But you should continue to preheat it. It's just because, like if you look at the checklist, in order to stop the turbine, you will have to close the preheat valve and stop the turning gear. This will take a while, and while you are doing it, the temperature of the casing will drop. It will drop pretty slowly, but still you just want to give yourself some time to actually be able to start the turbine, so you want to preheat it a little bit more. Probably the blue line is a good indicator where you can stop. Okay, we passed the blue line. I think it's okay. So we can close the preheat valve now. So you can see only the last thing which we want to do is disengage the turning gear. So once we close the preheat valve, you can see that this rate immediately drops to 0, and also it also goes just to a little negative value. So it means the casing is now cooling, but this process is really slow, so you should have plenty of time. Okay, once this is closed, we stop the turning gear. So now again we can observe the turning gear indicator here. The RPMs are dropping. It will just take a moment. So we can also look around. So we have annunciators here. They are all okay. There are some other indicators like turbine axial pressure and turbine radial pressure. Radial pressure depends on the RPMs, and axial pressure depends on the amount of steam that is going to the turbine, presses on the turbine. So they are not at this moment actually used for anything. And here you can see red means the turbine is tripped, green it means it's engaged. What I will do now is I will put this on auto control. So generally, as a turbine operator, you want to work with these two things. Yes, the sealing pressure and the oil temperature. They both will change with the load of the turbine, the RPMs. So you want to work with both of them. But if you are doing a startup like I'm doing it alone, yes, so I just cannot do it. I will put this on auto control. You will have to work manually on both to get the extra points on demand that the turbine can give you. So yeah, keep this in mind. It's better to put somebody here who will just work with this stuff. Okay, this is stopped, so I can now disengage. And I should have the green light here, so now I can call turbine ready for run up, and we can start running it up. Let's do the check. Okay. So we do it basically the same way as we did. We need all the green lights to be able to enable this. Of course, we need to increase the reactor power. 10% is the minimum. Open the inlet to the valve. We see the pressure immediately drops, so we close the bypass. And it is very important to keep this pressure high. As I said before, it will trip the turbine if we go below 5 megapascals, but also the turbine is mostly efficient here at this 7 megapascals level, so you really want to have it here both for quicker run up and for higher power generation. It's just a good region where this needle should stay. Okay, I will increase the power a little bit. I want to show you how to work with bypass valve. Okay, one more thing. Yeah, I almost forgot. So another thing which the turbine operator has to do is to disable the electric pumps. I'll do it now so the turbine doesn't trip. So above about 1800 RPMs, we are already above, you will have to switch off the electric pump because the pump and the shaft kicks in. Yeah. So if you they are automatic. They are just on the shaft, so they always work, but they become pretty, quite effective at the above, let's say, 1500 RPMs. So yeah, you need to disable the electric pump, or the pressure would grow too high and trip the turbine. Okay, back to the control room. Yeah, I should do this every time. I hope it didn't overpressure yet. I did just a little. Okay, let me. Now, once I'm nearing, oh, it's pretty fast. Okay, I should start opening the bypass a little bit, because I want to be closing the turbine valve, yes, to slow down the run-up. So I need to just open the bypass, keep the pressure in limit. Okay, are we looking here? Okay, almost stopped, so I can close, open this valve just a little bit. And I think you will notice also the turbine was reworked a bit to make it more realistic. So now when we synchronize the turbine, it will actually be on the minimum load. Actually, it can be even on negative. And this is pretty obvious. I mean, now the turbine has no load. It just spins up freely. So once we attach the generator and it starts to produce electricity, it will cause the turbine to work under a drag from the electricity. So this is naturally that the first thing we need to do after we synchronize is to open the valve, the turbine valve, just a little bit to start actually producing power, energy. Okay, I should stay at a little negative for anti-clockwise movement. Okay, synchronize. You see -6. I just opened the precision valve. Okay, I'm on the positive now. So yeah, that's how it works. Let's switch this. How is the demand? 720. Okay, I will go now for 30% of power on the automatic. I will also enable recirc. Okay, I will start opening the recirculation. I really like it to have it about 50%, because I can work with this in both directions. But you have to remember to do not open this like I'm doing it if you are on manual, because if you are on self-circulating model, this will just quickly go out of control. So at this moment I'm working on automatic control of the rods. So the auto control automatically suppresses all the power gain I get from the circulation. This way I can open it freely. But I will show you how to actually meet the demand on manual. I think that many of you have problems with this. You probably don't know how to do it properly. I mean, I either don't know how to do it properly, but I just figured out a good technique, so I will show it to you. So I'll just keep them at 50. Doesn't really matter a lot. If you want, you can work with rods only, but I like to work with circulation because it's more precise. It's okay, so I will just let it stabilize. Okay, just kill this a little bit. So 720, we will need about 750 produced. Now we are using 35 megawatts. Probably on higher power we'll be using more, of course, about 50. So that's my aim, 750. So I will go to about 70% of power to do that. Okay, so let's switch to manual. I will go with the rods. And you may notice that, okay, this is too quick. I also need to open this. Don't increase power so quickly. 60 seconds. It's really, I mean, I've scrammed the reactor or tripped the turbine so many times by just doing this too quickly that it's really not worth it. I think 100 seconds is just pretty good rate. Okay. And another thing, I really like to work simultaneously on reactor and the turbine. I mean, this is so much connected that actually I prefer to do it alone than to like have somebody working here. I will show you why. Because most people who are working with the turbine, they just don't get the idea how to do it. I mean, they are keeping the pressure in limit, which is fine. But I will show you what you actually need to do. So let me stop here for a moment. Okay, about 70, almost 70%. So you see, yeah. Let me. First of all, I want to keep the pressure in limit. Okay, I'm here. And now, what I want to do, I want to set up the demand with the turbine. So, as I said, 750, even 760. Okay, so let me set the turbine to, okay, I'm almost here. You see, it's growing pretty fast, so I need to reduce power. I can watch it also here. Okay, now it's still, okay. So that's all. I mean, don't touch the turbine anymore. You just set the right value here and then you correct with the reactor. So I set 760 being on the right pressure. Now I just see I'm reducing the reactor, the load is decreasing pretty slowly, that's okay. While I'm nearing to this value of 760, I want to like put the reactor on neutral. Okay, I'm at infinity. It will still continue to drop a little bit, so maybe even warm up the reactor just a little. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, now I'm just below. Let's add a little more. Okay, a little more power. Stopped. Now it's started to grow. Okay, so I'm already killing this. I'm almost stable. Okay, I'm pretty much stable now. Let's see. Minus 11. Okay, so I need about 770. So just let's add up just a little power, but really just a little. This has like a little lag, but you see it's already growing. So let me just go to infinity again with the time. So it's growing pretty slowly. Okay, the reactor is burning xenon, so it's like all the time accelerating. You can see slowly, very slowly. Okay, let's keep it at infinity. Slowly growing. Okay, I want to now go a little bit to the negative to stop the load rise. Okay, I already stopped. So pretty much now I'm stable about 2 megawatts below, 3 megawatts below. Okay, it's growing again. I want to go to infinity, kill the reactor here. Okay, now just counter this rise with a little of negative. Okay, it's too much. That's not easy when the reactor is burning xenon. Yes, if you work on stable reactor, that's easier. But basically that's how you do it. I mean, as you can see, I'm not touching the turbine valve at all. Okay, let's see. +2, +1. 0. And we are almost stable. You can play with this like that. Add just a little power, okay. Now put it at infinity. And you can see I'm pretty much stable at the demand. As you can see, I'm working here with the values after the decimal. Almost at the point. +2. Okay, probably this this side power usage has changed. But really, on stable, I can keep it at 0 non-demand difference. And as you can see, we are pretty much in the limit of the pressure. So this is basically how you do it. Yeah, you just to repeat the steps. I will now put it on auto. So first of all, you roughly go to the power you want, keeping the pressure where it should be. Then you use the turbine valve to exactly meet the demand, and then just observe. If it's growing, reduce reactor power. If it's lowering, add reactor power. That's it. Okay, so I hope this was interesting. I should set up the derailleur, because derailleur now also penalizes you if you don't set it up. It will reduce the amount of points you get. And another thing which was introduced is, of course, a lot of things has changed. We have new ranks, new GUI. We are really thinking about reworking the scoring system. I mean, it doesn't work exactly as it was intended. And let me explain you why. Every time I log into a server, I see just one person doing the stuff that I'm doing now, like doing everything. And once they are in demand, they just switch to manual everything, yes, to get the maximum points. Once the demand changes, you are no longer earning points, so they like put everything on auto, put a new reactor power, wait until it's again in demand, and then everything off. And one person is doing this, and 5 others are just like walking around, or they are AFK. It's just not the way the game was designed to be played. I mean, change of demands. This is something that should like cost you the most effort. It's the most cooperation. I'm changing the reactor, working with the turbine. Somebody is like adjusting this, and somebody is adjusting this, and this is how it should work. I mean, you have 5 people here, and nobody is doing anything because all is on auto. Okay, so the idea is that, as you can see, all these automatic systems, except for the turbine, which doesn't really matter, they have this yellow lamp. So once you disable the system, the lamp stays lit, and it will stay this way for 5 minutes. And during that 5 minutes, this system is treated by the point system as on. Yeah, so if you enable anything automatic, and even if you disable it for the next 5 minutes, you will earn less points. That's basically it. It is to encourage people to actually work with the reactor, not just change the demands on auto. Oh, why is this bypassing? Oh, now we go out of the demand. Okay. So let me show you how the radioactivity works. I think this is pretty interesting. So let me test myself. Zero. So as you know, probably, the water in the circuit is radioactive, of course, it comes out of the reactor. So what we're reading here is actually the background. But if we close it, the turbine is a bit higher. Or even if it is above 30, you get this sound. It's not a lot. It's very little radiation, but it's here. If there is a leak, for example, it might be much higher than that. So try to experiment with it. So Geiger counter basically gives you the instant radioactivity. This gives you the value, how much radioactive the stuff is. But this is not as important as the actual exposure which you can read here. It doesn't matter how this thing is radioactive, because what matters is how much radioactivity you actually absorb. Because something might be very radioactive, but just like you are near it for a moment and then you go away, and you absorb just a little, while you could stand here for hours and absorb more. So this dosimeter basically tells you how much you have absorbed. So the color of the stripe will change. This thing which is in the middle, the yellow thing, it will get darker with exposure to radiation, and you can like read the value in this is millisieverts. So these are still pretty low values. Although 50, this would be already above like a yearly limit for a worker. So you should never see this actually going dark, but this can happen. In certain circumstances, this can happen. So you can play with this a bit. And this Geiger, it gives you radiation index. So it's 1,000 times less. Okay, now I should be just a little more irradiated now. Let's see. Yep, you see it's 21. It's because I was near the turbine. It's nothing really to be worried about. There's no alarm. But if you get irritated like that, or even more, you can like take a shower. So you can take a shower like this. Oh, I think I should undress first. Oh well. Yeah, I think this is enough. Let's Nope, it's 0 again. So you see it works. Shower always works. If you want to get rid of this dosimeter, just throw it into that radioactive bin. Oh, it doesn't work. Sorry. It should. So it's a bug. Okay, I will have to correct this. Yeah, that's basically it. I think I've showed you most of the stuff. Of course, when you are shutting down the turbine, it's the reverse. Remember to put the pumps back to electric when the turbine is spinning down. And I think that's basically everything I wanted to show you. I hope you'll have a lot of fun. This is becoming more and more cooperative, and Hopefully it will be even more cooperative in the future. We are really planning a lot of features, so please stay tuned. Join our Discord server, and yeah, let's meet on a server and play together. Thank you.